asking people who are dying or who are close to dying what their biggest regret is in life. And the answers were really surprising because most people didn't talk about regretting things that they did. They talked about regretting things that they didn't do. They talked about the path not taken and how they should have taken more chances and they should have spent more time with people that they loved. And to me, I thought that was really interesting because my life philosophy has always been, I can't not know. You know, when I come up with a crazy idea or something that I want to do, like moving across the country or starting a podcast or, you know, whatever the next thing is, I always feel like I can't not know. Like I have to take the chance. I have to see what happens. I believe the biggest problem in the world is that people don't understand themselves enough. This show is designed to help you understand your INFJ personality, heal from your past, and create a life that you love. I'm Sarah Kuhn, and this is the Quiet Ones podcast. You guys, the last couple of weeks have been so exhausting for me. It seems like every time I sit down to do something, something else comes up. And every time I feel like I'm getting focused, there's another disaster, another fire that I have to put out. I knew that I was going to have to move this summer because my lease on my apartment is up. But then I found out that my niece wanted to come and live with me, which I was so excited about because we get along really well. And I really wanted to be closer to her because she's been in Las Vegas for a few years. So it was nice that she wanted to come and live with me, but that threw all of my plans out the window. So I had to start over again looking for a different type of apartment. And then we needed something kind of quickly too because she was coming very soon. And so then just going through all of the headache of trying to find an apartment and the rents being incredibly high, and then finding something and trying to organize getting all the lease stuff together and all of the utilities changed, and then, you know, focusing on packing everything, which even just the thought of it is completely overwhelming. I'm sort of a hoarder when it comes to books. I have a massive collection of books and I love them all except when I have to move. Then I loathe every single one of them. So I'm excited to be able to move, but it's just been so exhausting and there's just been so much that's happened. And then today, I had a list of things to do today, and of course, all of them are on the internet. My whole life revolves around my computer, and the internet was not working. The internet was like, it would work for about 5 minutes and then it would stop working, and I would have to reset the router. And so I went through this whole process for like 3 or 4 hours this morning, and I ended up having to call the internet company, and they tried to get it figured out, and I think that they finally did, hopefully. So we'll see how all of that goes. But it's so extremely frustrating when you feel like you have a plan and you know exactly what you want to do, and then something that's out of your control shifts that plan. In the past, that used to be something that I worried about constantly. I always wanted to control everything and make everything work perfectly the way that I thought that it should. But nowadays, I tend to be a lot more, well, I try to be a lot more relaxed about those things, except when it comes to the internet, because everything runs off of the internet, right? If the internet doesn't work, you're kind of dead in the water. But I thought it was strange on a day that I wanted to record a podcast episode about how do you want to feel, that I was feeling really overwhelmed and really stressed out. I felt that way for a large part of my life. I've always wanted to have everything sorted out and to have a plan, to have a goal to reach forward to. And the times of my life where I didn't have a plan and where I didn't have a goal were the times where I felt the most stressed out, the most chaotic, the most confused, the most lost and hopeless. I actually just sent a video to my niece on Instagram that was talking about make a plan, even if it's a terrible plan, even if it's a stupid plan, even if you don't know if that's the right plan, just make a plan, because you need something to look forward to. You need something to do. You need a goal to reach forward to, because if you don't have a plan, then you're just helplessly lost. You're just wondering what the point of everything is. and everything seems 10 times worse than what it actually is. So today we're going to talk about making a plan. We've been talking a lot in the last few weeks about finding your purpose. I've written a few blog posts about it as well. And I wanted to let you know too that I'm doing a 21-day challenge that's called a Purpose Challenge that will help you find your purpose. It'll help you release all of the fear that you have and establish a direction and make a plan. Even hopefully it's not a stupid plan. Hopefully it's a good plan, so that you know exactly what you want to do with your life and you know exactly what steps to take to get there. I felt overwhelmed in finding my purpose for a long time, and so I've studied a lot about finding your purpose, and I put all of that information that I've studied together in a planned and orderly way that will help you walk through each step to find your purpose in the right way, the way that makes the most sense. There's 21 daily lessons that are starting May 1st, and you'll get a new lesson every single day that it doesn't take very much time to do it, maybe even 10 or 15 minutes. So even if you're stressed for time, if you have a lot going on right now like I do, you'll still have enough time to get it done and to be able to accomplish finding your purpose and figuring out what the best thing for you to do is, what the best plan for you is going forward. There's an exclusive member platform, and there's also an exclusive Facebook group for community support. There are already a bunch of INFJs in there, and there's already a great conversation about finding your purpose. Sometimes it helps more than anything just to have people who are like you to talk to, who are going through the same thing, have the same struggles and they're in the same situation as you are. So if you're interested in finding your purpose, make sure that you check it out today. You can find all the information at infjwoman.com/purpose challenge, and there's a link for the challenge in my show notes as well. So today we're talking about how do you want to feel. I recently joined a mastermind group, which is something that one of my friends put together. She was talking about it. I think she sent me a blog post about it that was all about what mastermind groups are and why you would have one. And really the basis of it was just to have a collective group of friends and people who are very similar, who are all reaching for the same goals, who all want to make a change in their life. And you just come together weekly and support each other. And I thought it was such a great idea that I told her, yeah, absolutely, I want to join. I'm always looking for support in building my business and building my podcast and my blog. I'm not that great at connecting with people, especially on a weekly basis. So when I have a scheduled time where I know that something like that's going to happen, that will hold me accountable. It will also give me more motivation to move forward and to keep making changes in my life. So it was really something that I wanted to join. And the first meeting, we were kind of just figuring out what the whole mastermind was going to be about. But each one of us had something big in our lives that we wanted to change. For me, it's the fact that I want to be more financially independent. I want my business to be something bigger, but I also want it to be meaningful and I want it to be helpful. So we kind of gravitated towards talking about your purpose. It seems like a lot of us question what our purpose is. Even when we feel like we're somewhat sure, we end up questioning our purpose. And maybe that's an INFJ thing because we always are looking to learn more and we're looking for the best solution and the best information available. I think that's what it is for me. I'm always interested in hearing other people's perspective on what their purpose is and how they find their purpose because it's been such a big thing in my life. So one of my friends sent me an article about finding your purpose, and it talked about meditation, which I absolutely love. It talked about a process called morning pages, which I'm sure if you've read, there's a really popular book that's called The Artist's Way. And in the book, the author talks about writing for either 30 minutes or 3 pages every single morning, which she calls morning pages, to just get your thoughts out of your head, to organize your thoughts, and then to help you be more creative, to help you think about different things. But the last thing that this article talked about was something that's called the desire map. And when I read that one, I hadn't heard anything about this before. So the first thing that I did was order the book. And the book is called The Desire Map. And it's actually this amazing book that talks about building your life based on how you want to feel. And it has a lot of questions in the book that help you determine how you want to feel. Once I got the book and started diving into it, it kind of felt to me like a lightning bulb went off in my head, like a light bulb, or I got struck by lightning or something. It seems like I've always went about finding my purpose in the wrong way. For me, it was always connected to my career, my job. I thought about it a lot when I was in high school and when I was in college. And then it seems like every time I've had a job that I didn't like, it's been something that I obsessed over. But when I thought about it in the past, it was always in the context of finding the right job, finding the right career, and having enough money to be able to pay for my college and to pay for the standard of life that I wanted to have. Which, let's be honest, it's pretty expensive. And it seems like it just keeps getting more and more expensive. From my experience speaking to INFJs about purpose, that's what a lot of us do. We hate our jobs, or we're not even sure what to start with as far as a job goes. And then we start thinking about what's the type of career that I can make the most money in. A lot of people ask you too, what do you like to do? And for me, when I get stuck in that trap of I hate everything, like I hate my job and I hate everything, it's really difficult for me to even think about what do I like to do? What do I want to do? Because I generally go to the place of, well, when I get home from a job that I hate, I like to lay on the couch and watch TV. I like ice cream and jelly beans. I like to go to the beach. I like to watch Frasier and Friends and Psych, and I like to read. How do I make a career out of that? And then I always get stuck and lost there because it's like, I don't see a career out of that. How many people actually get paid to lay on the couch and watch old TV shows and eat jelly beans? Like that's not a career. Or if it is, I don't know what type of career it is. Maybe it is a career. Maybe I've just totally missed the point on that one. But I think a lot of times we get stuck on this question because we're stuck in this certain place in our life, right? And we can't look beyond what that place is. We can't see anything beyond the job that we hate. We can't see anything beyond what's really survival mode that we're living in. The worst part of it for me too is that I have this vision in my head that I've talked about a little bit in the past. It's almost like a movie that plays in my head that's like the ideal version of who I am as a person. And it is, right now, it seems impossible for me to ever be in that situation. So that ideal version, it kind of scares me a little bit, right? Because I want to reach for that goal, but it seems so far outside of anything that I could do at the moment that, again, I end up doing nothing. I end up feeling just overwhelmed and not even sure how to keep going. So what struck me about this book and about the article that I read about it is I don't recall ever starting thinking about my purpose with how I want to feel. I've started with how I want my life to look, and I've gotten lost in, how do I get there? But I've never focused on feelings. And that seemed really strange to me because we as INFJs focus so much of our lives on feelings, right? We focus so much of our conversation and our ideas and just so much about ourselves is based around feelings. We make the most the biggest decisions in our lives based on how we feel, right? And it seems like our whole lives operate based on intuition, which is driven partly by feeling. So I was really surprised that I had never really thought about how I wanted to feel. I was listening to a podcast episode not too long ago, and there was a book author on there who I believe was Gay Hendricks. And he was talking about how he does these retreats. He's a life coach, and he's also a psychiatrist or a psychologist, I believe. But he said that the first thing that he does in these retreats is he puts people in a quiet room alone for 10 minutes. And he has this meditation that asks them, what do you really want? And they listen to this meditation for 10 minutes and think about what they really want through different aspects of their life, what they really want more than anything else. And he said that people come out of that 10-minute meditation and they tell him that they don't need anything else. that was all that they needed, was 10 minutes of thinking about what they really wanted, and they feel like their whole lives have changed. I think it's important to start with that when you're thinking about how you want to feel. A lot of times, especially for me, when I think about what I really want more than anything, it absolutely has nothing to do with my purpose in life. It absolutely has nothing to do with my job or my career. It has to do with things that I can't control. Things like falling in love and having a family. You know, you can't control when you're going to meet the right person, right? So you kind of just have to go along until you get there, right? And obviously there are things that you can do in the meantime, but I mean, when you think about what you want more than anything, maybe that's part of my problem, because that's always been at the top of my list. And so then like the next thing on my list is like, okay, I want to have a good job, and I want to have a stable income, and I want to have freedom to do what I want to do without having to deal with other people's thoughts and opinions. So when I think about what I really want, I always take that into consideration too. When I was going through this book called The Desire Map and looking at how I wanted to feel, I was surprised at how much the feelings that I've always connected to finding the love of my life came up in other areas of my life. So there are 5 aspects that you have to look at when you're thinking about how you want to feel. You look at your lifestyle, your health and wellness, your creativity, your relationships, and your spirituality. And then you look at 5 different aspects of those things. So what are you thankful for? Then you look at what's working, then what's not working, because oftentimes that's just as important as what's working. The next one is what would make it better. And the last one is what do you wish it was? So I have a list of questions, and I just wanted to touch on a few of them. And I also wanted to tell you that I created my own list of questions that I thought were really important. Some questions that are similar to what was in the book, and some questions that weren't in the book at all, but I was thinking about and I felt were incredibly important. And I incorporated them all into a free guide, which is like a podcast workbook that you can download on my website at infjwoman.com/127. This way you can have all of the questions in front of you, and it's totally free. There's a link for it in the show notes as well. So the first thing that you start to look at is, how do you want to feel at home and at work? What do you want to feel like when you go to sleep at night? And how do you want to feel when you're with your friends? What do you crave? What do you think about more than anything? And what do you want more of in your life? When I was thinking about what I craved, I thought a lot about freedom. And to me, freedom was the ability to be myself and to do the type of work that I want to do without having to worry about other people, without having to worry about criticism or critique, without having to factor in their opinions. I really like the work that I do as far as marketing and graphic design. But what I don't like is when people who don't know anything about marketing or graphic design start to offer their opinions. And it seems like every job that I've been in, there's been somebody that has had this arbitrary list of rules that put me in this really tight box as far as what I was allowed to do and what I wasn't allowed to do. And for me, marketing is more like a continuous experiment, because especially when you're talking about email marketing and social media, it's constantly changing. And in order to keep up with it, you have to be able to experiment all the time. And so if you're not allowed to do that, or if you have to abide by certain rules, like not sharing pictures. Well, if you have an Instagram account, how are you not going to share pictures, right? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So when I was thinking about what I craved, my first thought was freedom, because I thought, well, if I didn't have a boss who was giving me these ridiculous rules, that would be a whole lot better. I could just do whatever I wanted to do. I also want financial freedom. I don't want to have to be beholden to a company or a corporation. I want to be able to do my own thing 100%. And I want to have to not worry about how I'm going to pay my rent, or if I can buy a new pair of shoes or not. I want more freedom. I want a savings account and a retirement account and all of those things that I feel like I'm too old not to have, because somehow I went from being too young to being too old very quickly. And now I'm starting to get really concerned about those things. The thing that I ended with, as far as what I crave, was that I want my life to mean something. I don't necessarily want to be famous or important in that type of way, but I want to be helpful. I want to make an impact. I don't want to just live for 75 or 80 years and look back on my life and find that I really haven't done anything. I was watching this video, I think it was probably on TikTok actually. I don't really spend a lot of time there, but I have an account, and every time I upload a video, because of how their platform works, you end up watching somebody else's video while your video is uploading. And I think it was Mel Robbins that was talking about research that has been done, asking people who are dying or who are close to dying what their biggest regret is in life. And the answers were really surprising, because most people didn't talk about regretting things that they did. They talked about regretting things that they didn't do. They talked about the path not taken and how they should have taken more chances, and they should have spent more time with people that they loved. And to me, I thought that was really interesting, because my life philosophy has always been, I can't not know. You know, when I come up with a crazy idea or something that I want to do, like moving across the country or starting a podcast or, you know, whatever the next thing is, I always feel like I can't not know. Like, I have to take the chance. I have to see what happens. I can't live with the what if. So when I thought about what I want more of, freedom came to mind as well. I was thinking a lot about criticism. I've gotten a bit of criticism recently. It's kind of a constant nagging thing on my Instagram account. I think it's because, you know, it's constantly growing and people see that I have some sort of influence, because I have 71,000 followers, and people feel like it's okay to say things to me or to attack me about certain things. And for the most part, it's not like I don't even know how to describe it, honestly, because it feels vicious to me. And I think a lot of it is because I focus so much on feelings. And it's also difficult for me to understand, because it's really just a difference in opinion as far as typing people, right? As far as figuring out their personality type. I go by what Myers-Briggs says, and they go by a different system. And so then they feel like they're justified in viciously attacking me and saying really nasty things to me simply because I don't agree with what they're saying, right? So for me, when I was thinking about what I want more of, I was also kind of thinking about what I want less of. Like, I want less criticism and more calm, more peace. I also want the freedom from other people's opinions, right? I don't want to feel like their opinions matter to me. I don't want to even worry about them or to even notice that they exist. There's a quote from the movie Pride and Prejudice that I love so much. And I forget exactly how it goes because I've used it for a long time. But I believe it was Elizabeth Bennet that said, "You're as much above my notice as you are below it." I thought that was really good. I always use it when I'm trying to like tell somebody that I don't really notice them, but make it not sound so bad, right? You're as much above my notice as you are below it. I just don't think about you at all. And that's kind of how I would like to be as far as criticism goes. And that applies to all of the areas of my life too, not just the people on social media, but also other people in my life. Sometimes it's my friends and family that say things that I don't know if they realize how much it affects me when they say things. But to me, I'd like to be able to consider somebody's opinion and let it go if it's not my truth. I'd like to be able to let it go a lot faster than what I do right now. So there were other questions like, what do you need to give yourself permission to do or to be? And then what's different about me? Just really diving more into your personality and making you think more about who you are as a person and what you want out of life, what makes you feel like you're alive, what weighs you down, what makes you feel depressed, what's the best advice that you've ever given, and what's the best advice that you've ever got. And did you take that advice? And why didn't you take it? And are you happy or sad that you didn't take it? And then it talks about joy. Where does your joy come from? What does it feel like? What's the sound of joy, the color of joy, the scent of joy? What do you believe in? What are you dead set against? What makes you feel vulnerable? What makes you feel strong? What are you proud of? What do you do when you're going through a crisis? Some of my favorite questions that helped me the most was to think about a time when you didn't feel the way that you wanted to. These questions were interesting to me because I feel like a lot of them were a turning point in my life. It seems like every time something really bad has happened in my life, that's been the time where I've been like, okay, I can't deal with this anymore. I need to make a big change. There needs to be something like shocking. one of those stupid plans that I was talking about earlier. A lot of the big things that I've changed in my life has started with what I thought was like a crazy plan. Like, it seemed really silly at the time. It was never gonna work, but somehow I still treated it like a real plan. And a lot of times I actually made the things work that started as crazy plans, right? So when I was thinking about the times when I didn't feel the way that I wanted to, there was a lot of hurt and rejection and disappointment. And I realized, that I had used those times, like those times had helped me because I had used them to be a springboard for something better. That if I hadn't have been through those times, I wonder where I would be now. If everything had just been perfect and rosy and great in my life, would I have done some of the things that I've done? Probably not. I would have not needed a drastic change. The reason that I moved to Boston was because something really bad happened to me that, again, it was like a wake-up call. It was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is not okay. I can't keep doing this. I need to do something different. And then, the reason that I started my blog was because I moved to Boston and I started working for this company that I initially thought was a great company. It was a nonprofit that had a great mission, But after I was there for probably about 2 months, I realized that it was really a bad company, that the people who worked there were very discriminate. They were openly discriminating against certain types of people that to me was not okay. I didn't want to be in that situation. I didn't want to be treated that way. So I knew that I had to make a change. And again, it was one of those drastic type of changes. It's like, okay, I need to get moving. Like, it has to happen now. I can't stay in this position for too long. So then the next question was, recall a time when you felt the way that you were hoping you'd feel. I ended up writing paragraphs for each one of these things, the last question and this question too, because I really wanted to dive into the feeling. I wanted to remember really well how I felt. And I was trying really hard not to romanticize it, because it's really, really easy for us, for all people. When we remember things, we typically remember them a lot better or a lot worse than what they actually were. And it's really difficult to remember them accurately. So thankfully, a lot of these things have been pretty recent in my life. But a lot of the feelings that I ended up with, like I said, the negative feelings were kind of like hurt and rejection and not really being accepted, not feeling like I was loved or wanted. So then when I looked at the positive experiences, those all were the exact opposite of those things, right? So I felt like I belonged. I felt like I was loved and accepted. And I realized too that I equate love with acceptance. So the times that I feel the most loved are the times when I feel the most accepted and understood. The times when I don't have to change who I am, where I can be exactly who I am, and I can say what I mean and say how I feel and talk about my ideas and my beliefs without anybody shutting me down or trying to censor me or telling me that it's not okay. Another thing that was really common in all of these experiences was hope. I had so much hope. A lot of my life revolves around thinking about the future, about wanting the future to be better. And I need something in my life to hope for, to look forward to. I think that's why I've become so attached to my blog and my podcast, because it's not just a way for me to express myself. It's not just a way for me to help other people. There's hope there. There's the desire for it to be better. There's a desire for it to be something bigger. And I truly believe that it can be. A couple of the things that I was thinking about were getting new jobs, getting the job that I have now, because I was working at the nonprofit that I was talking about earlier, and it was such a difficult situation, and it was such a toxic place to work, and it felt like so much that was overwhelming to deal with. So when I got the job that I have now, my day job, I was so relieved, and I was so full of hope that it would be better. It felt like I had set out to do something and I had accomplished that goal really quickly, which to me, me finding a job usually takes forever. And there have been times where I've been looking for jobs for 2 years. So the fact that I started looking for a job and like 4 months later I had a new job, that felt like a big thing to me. It felt like it was meant to be, that it was a sign that I had to be somewhere else. There were a couple of other times, things that I had dreamed about, that I had really wanted and that I'd worked really hard for. I've talked in the past about how I fell in love with race cars when I was in high school. And for about 10 years, I dreamed about moving halfway across the country to where all of these race cars were, the race shops. They're all in North Carolina, and I grew up in Kansas. So even just the thought of moving 1,000 miles away was a big deal. And then the thought of, after you move, now you have to go get a job. And I didn't know anybody who worked in the industry. I had no experience. I really didn't have a lot to get a job with. And it was an uphill battle for a long time. It probably took me almost 15 years to be able to accomplish that goal. So when I did accomplish that goal, and I had this special card, we called them hard cards. It was like an annual credential that would get you into every single NASCAR event all year long. And I forget exactly how much they cost. I believe it was somewhere in the range of $10,000 per year. But of course, I didn't have to pay for it. The company that I worked for paid for it. But that little card was like a representation of all of my hopes and dreams and all of the work that I had done for all that time, and all of the difficult situations that I had been in, you know, not having enough money, not knowing where it was going to come from, you know, moving halfway across the country all by myself, all of those things. It was all represented in that card. So when I was thinking about that experience, I remembered walking down Pit Road and how I felt different with that card than I had before. And I'm sure that there was a little bit of status involved in that card. But for me, most of the feeling was this sense of belonging. This sense that I was accepted, that I was supposed to be there, that I was a part of a team, and that we had a goal that was bigger than just me. That was really what I wanted more than anything, was to be a part of something bigger than me and to be a part of something that made people happy. And like I said, I'm not gonna lie, there was a little bit of status there. When I was in school, I was like this super awkward kid who loved to read and was like the teacher's pet and had really good grades. I was the kid that blew the curve, right? I very distinctly remember this English class that I had when I was in the 6th grade. And this teacher that we had was this really great guy, but he was very dramatic about certain things, right? And so we took this test, and he had told us before taking this test that he was going to grade it on a curve and what all of that meant and stuff. And so after we took the test and he was giving us the test results, he was like, well, I graded everybody's test on a curve like I told you, except for one test. I didn't want to grade this person's test on the curve because it would bring her grade down, and I didn't want to do that. So her test isn't graded on the curve, but everybody else's is. And so we need to give a round of applause to this person. And he handed me back my test and he said my name. And so everybody's like clapping, but also like, ugh, I can't believe that you did that, you know, at the same time. And so for me, it was like, I was super proud of myself that I'd gotten such a great grade, but I was also like, you know, wanting to like hide under a rock. I didn't want people knowing my grades. I didn't want them thinking negative things about me. I didn't want, you know, to be called the teacher's pet or anything. And I wasn't in any sense popular. I had like 2 or 3 friends, if any at all, in the whole time that I was in school. And in that particular school that I went to, I used to bring my own lunch, which was weird because it was a public school and everybody usually bought their lunch or, you know, got lunch there. So for me, you know, I brought my own lunch and I sat on the outskirts of the room by myself, and, you know, just one thing after another that was like, I was definitely the non-cool kid. But I mean, I didn't really care for the most part. I never wanted a lot of attention. And the older that I got, I realized it's just too exhausting to try to be popular because, you know, most of those people, they talk about things that you're not interested in, and so then you have to figure out how to be interested in them, and it's just so exhausting. So for me, you know, when I was finally walking in the racetrack with this special card, I kind of felt like one of the cool kids. And it was like this fun feeling that was kind of fleeting because, you know, I didn't work for one of the nice teams, so I knew very much what my place was. But it was also nice to be treated like you belonged. There were a couple of other times, like moving to Boston, I had some people tell me that I would never make it and it would never work out and nobody would ever hire me and I was just wasting my money, because I probably spent more than $2,000 flying to Boston to interview for jobs before I was actually able to move. And so when I finally got a job and was able to move, I remember walking down the beach the first time and just feeling like I was vindicated, feeling like really glad that I had listened to my intuition, knowing that I was in the right place, feeling like I belonged, feeling like that was where I was supposed to be. And again, another feeling of hope came up. And I realized in walking through all of these things that hope is one of the most important things to me. I was talking to my niece about it this past weekend. We went to the beach. And we were talking a little bit about the American dream. There's been a lot of people nowadays, especially, that attack this idea of the American dream, right? And so we were talking about what exactly it is and why some people attack it. For some reason, I don't remember why, we were talking about immigration too. And we ended up, I think it was probably something that we found on Google, because my niece is an INTP and she loves to Google things and make sure that what I'm telling her is true. So we were talking about this fact that like half of the immigrants in the world come to the United States. Oh, I know what we were talking about. We were talking about 90 Day Fiancé because we both like 90 Day Fiancé and the drama craziness that it is, right? And so I was telling her more about like what I've learned about the visa process to the United States from watching 90 Day Fiancé. And we were talking about why so many people want to come to the United States, and you know, that's how we landed on the American dream, right? And the American dream is really hope. That's really what it is. You're selling people hope. You're selling them the idea that there's a better life. You're selling them this story that they can come to the United States, and if you work really hard and you save your money and you spend it well, you know, on certain things, that everybody has the opportunity to have a better life. You're not stuck in a system that says, well, you're not good enough because you were born, you know, from a family who's not very good. Like, there have been so many systems like that in the past. There have been systems of like indentured servitude. Like I was thinking about like I'm probably going to say it wrong, but I think it's like the caste system that was so popular in Europe prior to the United States becoming a country. And I was even thinking too about Elizabeth Bennet again in Pride and Prejudice. They were so focused in that movie on marrying somebody who had money because they didn't have money and they couldn't work. They weren't allowed to work back then. So if Elizabeth didn't marry somebody who had money, then she would have been poor for her whole life. And her parents were trying to get her to marry her cousin because her parents were going to lose the house that they lived in. It was only passed down to male heirs, and all they had was girls. They had like 5 girls, I think. 4 or 5 girls. So their parents were going to be out on the street and they didn't have anything. All of it got passed down to the cousin. And so they were trying to, well, her mom at least was trying to talk her into marrying her cousin and pressuring her to marry her cousin so that they would have a place to live. So my niece and I were talking about all of this and about the American dream, this hope that so many people buy into, and it's worked for so many people too. If you look at people like Oprah Winfrey, you know, she was so poor when she was a little girl that her grandma made her clothes out of potato sacks. She had nothing. If you look at people like, you know, I know a lot of people attack like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. They all started from nothing. I really like the story of Howard Schultz because I love Starbucks. And you know, it's so inspiring that he grew up in government housing and his family had food stamps because they were so poor. And now he's the CEO of this incredible, amazing company. And he's wealthy beyond what I can even imagine. So just the fact that people can go from nothing and have the opportunity to build businesses like that, to build a life, is really pretty crazy when you think about it. But really, all that it boils down to is hope. It's one part hope and one part belief that you can do that. It's belief that story is true. It's looking at other people's stories and saying, okay, well, if they can do it, then I can definitely do it. Hope to me, I listed it as my number one desired core feelings, or core desired feelings. Because I feel like if there's no hope, then there's no life. When I get into a situation where I don't have anything to hope for, I don't have anything to look forward to, I don't have any plans or goals, I feel like there's no point in living. And I start to question why I'm even here. What am I doing here? What does it matter? And it's this whole, it's almost like this toxic type of nihilism that like nothing matters and everything's a disaster, you know? And for me, I'm not one of those like, I almost call it toxic positivity. Those people who are just happy and peppy and super positive all the time. I'm not one of those people. I'm definitely not. There's an equal balance of hope for the future. Well, there might be a little bit more hope for the future than there is, you know, what are we really doing here? But I know that for me to operate well as a person, there has to be hope. There has to be hope that there is something better that's around the corner, that the best part of my life is still in front of me, no matter how old that I get. That something wonderful is going to happen, that it's not too late for whatever it is that I want, and that I can still dream dreams that have the possibility of coming true. The next thing that I connected from all of these questions that I answered, from all of the things that worked out the way I wanted and that didn't work out the way I wanted, something that was big was freedom. It's financial freedom, it's personal freedom, it's me wanting to be who I am as a person without other people, without their comments, without their beliefs, their ideas, and their dictates. I want to just be who I am and not worry about other people. I want to be fully who I am. And if that means that I want to say things that are controversial, or if I want to believe something different than other people believe, then I want to be able to have the ability to do that. The next thing to me was acceptance. And it was really hard for me to put these in order because each one of them is so incredibly important to me. But I realized that acceptance is extremely important because, like I said earlier, I equate love with acceptance. I feel the most love when I feel the most accepted. And I need that ability to be me in every way that I want to, and to still feel like I'm worthy of love. Like it's okay for me to be who I really am. I think that's so important to me now because as much as we talk about acceptance, I get stuck on the fact that most people who preach about acceptance are only interested in accepting people that they find acceptable. They don't want to accept people that they don't agree with. They don't want to accept people that they don't understand. And for me, that feels like the worst type of limited acceptance that there is. It feels to me like straight hypocrisy, right? If you're going to talk about acceptance, if you're going to say that acceptance is extremely important, then you need to be accepting of everybody, right? It's either complete acceptance or it's nothing at all. And so many people who preach about acceptance aren't really interested in acceptance. They're interested in a lot of judgment. Because as soon as you say something that they don't like, as soon as you challenge one of their ideas or question one of their ideas, then they start to use words that sound a lot like judgment. They basically are judgment. If people are calling you names rather than accepting you for who you are, they're not really interested in accepting you. They're just interested in judging you. I want true acceptance. I want complete acceptance. And it's almost like relentless acceptance. It's a work in progress for me because I'll be honest, I'm really good at being judgy and I'm not that great at complete acceptance. But I'm working on it because I know that it's important. Okay, so the next thing for me is peace. I need peace in my life. I need peace and quiet, but I also need peace from all the drama. Whatever type of drama that is, whether it's family drama or drama with friends, drama at work, drama in the news and the world, I just need peace. I need to not be involved in it. I need an escape from it. And the last thing for me is safety. Safety financially, so that I don't fall into, I want to say money pit. It seems like I have put myself in some really bad situations in the past and had to learn the hard way a few situations. But I also want personal safety too. Again, it comes back to acceptance, right? I want to know that it's okay for me to be me and that the people around me aren't going to leave or revolt or, whatever the popular term is nowadays. They're not going to leave me, basically, if I'm truly who I am. So that's what I came up with for me. Once you answer all of the questions, you have to figure out, what your core desired feelings are. And most people come up with 3 to 5 of those feelings. Once you have those feelings, then it's up to you to figure out how you are going to implement those things in your life. And you can look at what you've done in the past. You can look at when was the last time that you felt these feelings, right? When was the last time that you felt hope? When was the last time that you felt freedom and acceptance and peace and safety? Or whatever the words are that you come up with, whatever the feelings are that are most important to you. It's up to you to say, okay, this is when I felt that way, and this is what I'm going to do in the future. This is my plan to make sure that I'm incorporating those feelings into my life on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. It's also important to look at the negative side of those things too. To say, when was the last time that I didn't feel hope? Or when do I not feel hope often? When do I not feel free? When do I not feel acceptance? Maybe there are some things that are in your life that you need to eliminate. I'll be honest, really brutally honest. There are a couple of people in my life that I've been waiting, I guess. There are a couple of people who probably need to go. And I've been thinking about that for a while. But I don't want to be mean, and I don't want to be rude, and I don't want to be hasty, because I tend to make a lot of those decisions very quickly. And sometimes I wonder if I've made the right decision. So there are a couple of people that I've been like, I don't know if they're the best. I don't know if they're good friends, or if it's just me being, too judgmental, or if I'm just in a bad mood, or like what's happening. But I've been questioning them for a while. I was reading something on Instagram. Again, I think it may have been Mel Robbins, probably. And the quote said that if you're confused, the answer is no. And I think it was talking about dating, like if you're confused about how the other person feels, then the answer is no, right? They don't like you. They don't want to be around you. I feel like it's true for friends too. And I think that I've learned more and more about that because I've had some really good friends in my life now who do things that people say that friends should do, that healthy friends should do, right? It's not just a one-sided situation. They're calling me and texting me, asking me how my day was. They're remembering that I have important things that are coming up and the date that I said that those things were coming up. And you know, one of them even remembered when I told her that I was having a cavity filled in one of my teeth and that I was super anxious about it because I'd never had a cavity before. And she remembered the day that I was going to the dentist and texted me about it. So it's this great feeling to have good friends in my life, but then it's also this stark contrast between the people who really aren't that great. And so I'm thinking a lot more about all of these feelings and making a plan to make sure that each one of them is in my life on a more consistent basis. So I'm sure that your next question is, how does this pertain to your purpose? Well, it pertains to your purpose in a lot of ways. You have to think about ultimately how you want to feel on a day-to-day basis. Because if your purpose is your job, and it's not everybody's job, right? Some people have a different purpose. Some people find their purpose through volunteer work or through raising their children or through working for a church or some other type of nonprofit or ministry. There's a lot of different ways that you can find your purpose, right? But a lot of us feel like our purpose revolves around our job and our career. So if that does, then it's important to look at how you feel on a daily basis and to think about these feelings that you want to feel. Does it match up with how you feel every single day? Do you feel at peace with the job that you have? Do you feel safe there? Do you feel accepted? Is there hope for something better? Or is it really just the same old all the time, where nothing changes and nothing gets better and usually it just gets worse? Is that really where you want to stay? And then you have to think about, well, what would give me these feelings? When was the last time that you felt hope? When was the last time that you felt excited for the future? Maybe there's something in that where you can find your purpose. For me, this whole idea of acceptance comes up a lot. And I feel like in the future, I'm going to be building on that quite a bit because I think it's more than just a personality. I think it's more than just understanding your personality. I think there's more to that. So make sure that you stay tuned. What we talked about today is really just part of the story. We just went over a few of the questions that you have to work through to figure out how you really want to feel. We just went over a little bit of how you connect, how you determine your core feelings, and then how you connect those to finding your purpose. If you really want to dive into finding your purpose, I really suggest that you join my Purpose Challenge. It's a 21-day challenge. It's starting May 1st, which is in just a couple of days. And we're going to go through multiple ways to think about what you really want out of life, what you really want to do, what feelings that you want to feel, what you want your life to look like, and to take that and say, this is the career that I want. This is how I can help. This is the best way that I can help the world. This is what I have to offer. This is what I'm supposed to do. And then once you have that, then we're going to make a plan. This isn't just a figure out what you want to do. It's also figure out how to take that idea and make a plan and start taking action on it. There's a lot of accountability here, which is part of what the Facebook group is for, so that you can share stories with other INFJs who are going through the same thing. And then you can also encourage each other. You can see what they have done and build off of their momentum as well. If you're still looking for your purpose, this is a challenge that you really need. You can get all the information for it at infjwoman.com/purpose challenge, and there's a link for it in the show notes. But make sure that you don't wait to sign up because the challenge is going to close this Saturday, which is April 30th at midnight. So if you're interested in joining, make sure that you do. Head over there right now. It's infjwoman.com/purpose challenge.
Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate every single one of you. Please make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a review wherever you listen to the podcast. It helps other people to be able to find us. Thanks again for listening, and I will see you again next week. Hi there! I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm working very hard to produce content that will help you, and I really appreciate your support. Also, if you want some more inspiration, check out this video right here.